Welcome back to the Biohacking Wellness Podcast. Today's going to look a little different than it normally looks like because Kim is not here. So today's podcast is not nearly as attractive as it normally is.
I can go along with that. I am probably more charming though.
Here's what we have for you today. Mike Jacobson has joined us. Mike is a 75-year-old Navy veteran who has lost, as of today's recording, 58 pounds, getting very, very close to his goal. So rather than hearing from me, we've got some questions that we're going to go through. So Mike, thanks for being here today.
It's absolutely my pleasure, and I just hope and pray that people will get on board because the quality of your life from now on depends on it.
So the first one's a two-part question.
Okay.
What made you decide on losing weight, and why did you choose this program? So take number one, and let's roll.
Okay, well, I was a svelte 265 pounds. It was a labor to bend over to put my shoes on.
Hey, 265, how tall are you?
I'm 5'9".
5'9", 265.
Yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 75.
Okay, carry on.
And I was getting tired of being short-winded, and sometimes I literally walking up the stairs from the basement, I had to stop halfway to catch my breath. About a year or so ago, a year and a half ago, my wife and I were visiting our daughter and her husband in Texas, and they took us to this neat little park area where we were walking around, and I had to stop and sit down and rest because carrying the extra weight was not conducive to what I want to do. And I was lazy. I didn't want to do anything. I could care less. You know, as long as I had a steak in front of me and potatoes on the side, I was okay. But I knew that had to change. And I knew that I needed to owe it to my wife and to my family. I needed to lose weight so I could become the father and husband I wanted to be. So anyway, and my kids I was quite on the senior side already when I had my kids. So it's important. They're both in their 20s, and I wanted to be able to be part of their lives. And but I knew I could not, or I did not have the discipline to do it myself. I had tried. I used to lift weights. I used to run 8 miles a day. I used to do all this stuff. Of course, now I couldn't. But anyway, I noticed our pastor at our church, and I can say his name because he has been interviewed, as Pastor Ty Orr at Water Springs. All of a sudden, he started looking thinner. And I says, well, you know, that's happening awful quick. I mean, within a couple months, right. I mean, it was really, really noticeable that he had lost a lot of weight.
People thought he was sick.
Yeah, they did, and he was doing great. But anyway, so I asked him what the secret was, and he turned me on to here and to this program. And so I came in on September 4th and interviewed, and my wife and I decided to go into the program together. And just a little bit of an anecdote on the side. This morning, my wife was trying to put on her favorite sweater. Mm-hmm. It was too big, and she says, no. So it's been good. And we took this program because of the quick results, but not the suffering results. Right. What I heard in talking to Pastor Ty, it was not a matter of, you have to starve, you have to work out 25 hours a day and do all this stuff to lose weight. It wasn't that. It wasn't that at all.
It's real food.
It's real food, mm-hmm. And we'll get into that a little bit later on the questions I wrote. But it's actually been, my wife and I have kind of enjoyed it.
Yeah, she looks fabulous, but I'll never forget the first conversation that you and I had. You had some, I'm not going to call them objections, but you had some concerns. Mm-hmm. One of them was travel, which we're going to talk about in mm-hmm. your list of questions. But the other one was that you had to have you had a surgery scheduled, and you were wondering if you wanted to wait until after that surgery. Mm-hmm. Do you remember what I said to you?
Yeah. No, that's all the more reason to do it now.
Well, I said your surgeon would be much happier.
Yeah.
If you went into that 40 pounds lighter.
Yeah. And right now I'm hoping that maybe I won't have to have the surgery, so we'll talk about the medical part of it here.
So how's your progress been so far?
I started out, like I said, 265.5 pounds. This morning, when I got on the scale, you weigh daily, and it's good because you see progress daily. I weighed 207.3, so I have lost 58 pounds to go, and I got what I want. My goal is 190, so I've got 18 pounds to go. Man, that seems good.
That's a sound bite, right? 75 years old,
Uh-huh.
and you've lost 58 pounds.
Yeah, and I feel like, well, I'm energetic now. I do things instead of coming home from shopping and sitting down and resting. I immediately put everything away and we go on from there. The energy level is absolutely amazing. I feel like I'm 70 again. No.
No, I was going to comment that you act 10 to 15, maybe even 20 years younger.
That's a young family.
And it's Mike's sarcasm level was 20 is he's about 15 like I am, but you genuinely, your energy level is much younger than you are.
Well, I appreciate that, and I thank you for that. But like I say, my family is young, and that's a whole story in itself. They've helped keep me young. I mean, when I was in my middle 60s, we went and lived 3 years in Africa. I mean, we've done things that have helped keep me that way.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so it's a blessing that really truly is.
So, what has been the hardest part of this program?
Like I'm going to assume some things, and pardon me if what I assumed that you don't fit into, but
Didn't they teach you in the Navy not to assume?
you know what that does, but I'm not going to say it on video. But anyway, the food. I love food. I love the taste of food. And when you sit down and you eat a good steak and a good baked potato that's loaded with everything from the kitchen sink to the rest of the kitchen, it's good. It was satisfying. I enjoyed that. Breakfast. I would never go out to breakfast. I used to go out to breakfast, and my wife works as a nurse, so she'd start early shift, and I would go out to breakfast, and I would have eggs, and I'd have bacon, and I'd have hash browns, and oh, by the way, add some sausage gravy on top of the hash browns, and then I'd have toast, and I love that. It's really good. And so the hardest part of this, I think, was coming to the realization that in moderation is going to become more of a part of my life than not. This is not a starvation diet by any stretch of the reason, and we'll get into that here in a bit. But the hardest part has been not having popcorn with butter on it. That is our family, we'd do that once a week. We'd have what we call pop and popcorn night, where on Friday nights, we as a family would pop a lot of popcorn and grab some sodas and sit there and watch a movie on TV. And we haven't been able to do that. And so there's some of the old habits that were unhealthy that we had to come to realization that that's not going to be part of our life anymore. And that's probably was the hardest part.
That's a good point. What's been the best part?
The best part is the energy, the willingness. My wife said, we were on a trip. We just finished a long trip, and that again is another story. It was a total of, we've covered 7,000 miles this year driving. But she said, when we would go someplace, like we were in Nashville, Tennessee, and we went to a shopping mall, we went to the Grand Ole Opry, and we went to the convention center. And we walked the whole distance. I mean, we were walking all day long, and the energy was there. I didn't have to stop. My family didn't have to wait for me to catch my breath, and that sort of thing. When we're traveling, I had more energy. We went to Branson. I felt right at home at Branson. Everybody had the same color hair I did. So on this trip, we did a lot of walking, a lot of energy, and I really enjoyed it. And I was alert on the trip. I didn't get tired driving like I used to, or any of that sort of thing.
So here comes my own question.
Mm-hmm.
You ready for a curveball?
Mm-hmm.
Does your increased energy outweigh not having popcorn with pops?
Oh yeah, I don't even think about it anymore. No.
Good.
Yeah, and you know what? We got one of these here whirly pop things. They're great, and they're about this high. Well, I used to. One was mine, and I had a green bowl. It's about this big round. I'd fill that up, put on it. My wife and I, what we're going to be doing when we finish the program, and we've got a ways to go yet, where we go through maintenance and all that sort of thing, is we'll buy you one of those and split it.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what we're going to start doing.
Yeah. So you're hitting on some triggers which people need to hear, right? Because that's one thing we get a lot is, well, what am I going to do without food X when I do activity Y? Especially this time of year, we hear it a lot. Like people struggle because of Christmas. But I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm glad that you're saying the energy outweighs being able to do that. And I'm also glad that you're pointing out that you'll be able to have some of that stuff again. Because your body has built up what we call metabolic flexibility, which basically means when you started with us and you were eating those things all the time, you had chronically high inflammation levels that were aging you faster than you normally age chronologically. Now those things are gone, so now your inflammation levels you have a baseline down here, so that when you have half the popcorn, when we get you to your goal weight, you'll have those little inflammatory spikes, but you're going to go right back to the baseline again.
Yeah.
And that's how people are going to keep weight off.
And that's another thing I wanted to point out, that in the what is good for too, because it goes right along that same line, is my prescription drugs. I was looking at them today. You know, us old people, we got these here things, and we fill them up with all the drugs so we don't miss them each day and that sort of thing. Well, actually, I'm down to 3 pills a day, and they're normal.
From what? How many were you taking?
I was taking 8. And
now 8 pills, 8 different prescriptions.
Yeah,
and
well,
now you're down to
actually, it was 6 prescriptions and 2, or 6 prescriptions
Okay.
and a vitamin, but or 7 prescriptions and a vitamin, and now I'm down to 3 prescriptions and a vitamin, and I take a cholesterol pill, I take a high blood pressure pill, which is dropping, but it's not there yet. And I take another pill for something else. It's not
Cool.
important. But I'm way down on my meds, and one of the medicines I was taking was omeprazole for reflux, indigestion. Prilosec is the another name for omeprazole. Omeprazole is the generic name. But I've been taking that since year 2000. I have been taking that pill for 2000, and I quit taking it about 2 weeks ago, and I haven't had a problem yet.
Here comes another soundbite, Mitch. the big 3: blood pressure, blood sugar, and omeprazole. The perfect trio to set you up for Alzheimer's.
I don't remember what you were talking about.
Nice. Okay, so moving on. I'm gonna switch the order here.
Do whatever you want. That was
You've traveled coast to coast. You said you've driven 7,000 miles since you started the program. How has it been following the program on the road?
Actually, it's been easy, and I'm going to swing into something about here. It's another question.
Right, because you asked me about any problems eating out.
No, I'm going to talk about, well, let's talk bundle and then support aspect.
Cool.
My wife and I thought about that, and we kind of planned ahead. So what we do when we travel, and it's actually pretty easy. One thing I learned, it's important now to all of us carnivores, or what do you call us, is that a bag of beef jerky has 2 ounces in it. Now you're allowed per meal 4 ounces of protein, or that's what's recommended. Beef jerky without sugar, you gotta read the ingredients and says, if there's no sugar in it, that's fine. And each bag is 2 ounces. So I could eat a whole bag of beef jerky. So what we would do is we would boil a dozen eggs, and we get a cooler, and we take our fruit with us. We love berries. That's the dessert on the meals you can have is berries. and we'd take strawberries, blackberries, raspberries, and blueberries, and we would take them with us, and we measure them out to have our 4 ounces that we have, which is a lot. That's one thing I learned, 4 ounces of things is a lot. And we would go, so when we were driving we wouldn't eat breakfast as per the program, but as we were driving at lunchtime, I would grab a handful of cherry tomatoes. Now you can eat as many of those as you want, and they have become the best snack food in the world. I just go in and I grab a handful of cherry tomatoes, and I'll sit there and do.
If you like tomatoes.
If you don't learn how to like it, it's either that or celery, and I like the tomato. But I like celery too. But anyway, and then I would eat a bag of beef jerky for 2 ounces. For my other 2 ounces of protein, they have these chomps at Costco, and I'd eat 2 of those. Each chomp is 1 ounce. We have a food scale. Recommend strongly getting a food scale so you can measure your food out. And then we'd have some berries, and that would last us. And then traveling at night, it's amazing. I'm a very outgoing person. I can talk easily with anybody, pretty much. And we would go to a restaurant, whether it be in the boondocks, the old Greasy Spoon, like when I was born and raised, we had the Mint Cafe. It was a small town restaurant. Mm-hmm. We'd go in there, whether we went in there or we went to a floating restaurant in Coeur d'Alene. And whether you go there, I'm very open. I say, look, I tell the waitress beforehand, I say, I'm going to let you know we're not stupid. We're not nuts. We're not crazy. We're on this diet, and I would tell them how much I've lost. I said, since 4th of September, I've lost 30 pounds. You have? Well, I want to know how you did that. Well, yeah, and I explain a little bit about it. And then I say, but we're going to order, and we need your help to make sure we get what we need. Not a problem. I'll help you out. Most of the waiters and waitresses, or I guess you call them serving staff. I'm not politically correct, so I don't care. Most of them would bend over backwards to help you. And we would have a fantastic meal that fell into the realm of what we could eat and what we had. So we had no problem. We had actually had fun planning the menus off the menu. And so we would do something like that. And then other things are you find restaurants. One of my favorite things that you can eat is French onion soup without the croutons and the cheese, and it's still pretty good. But French onion soup. So one of the first things I would look at when I go to the menu is what's the soup. You know, if they had French onion soup, so I know I'd have a salad, a side salad, a French onion soup. I would have 8 ounce protein, whether it be fish, meat, or whatever, and then I'd ask them for their fresh vegetables. And the fresh vegetables, you know, is usually broccoli, which I didn't really like before this happened, but all of a sudden I do. It's going back to the tomato content. So anyway, you can have fun doing that, and when you get on the scale the next morning, or that's when we would weigh in the morning when we get up, and you still see progress, you know you can do it.
Yeah.
You know you can take care of it.
Awesome. How's the support been during the program?
Oh, fantastic. When we were traveling, I don't know if I can mention Kim's name or not.
Yeah, you can.
I can mention Kim's name. Kim was our counselor that we had through this whole program. She has been nothing short of fantastic. She's very, very on the ball as far as making the weekly calls and seeing how we're doing and that. But the funny thing is, when we were traveling, we'd be sitting in a restaurant saying, oh, they got this. I wonder if we could eat this. So my wife would text Kim, and she would answer us right away. Yay, no, you can't. Well, that's borderline, but it'd give us some ideas. Or we would be driving along trying to decide different things that we could eat. I mean, when you're going through the barren stretches of Kansas, there's not a whole lot to look at. So we would talk about different things. That was great about this trip. But anyway, and so we'd say, well, I wonder if this is legal. So we would text Kim, and we'd get an answer right back. So the support we have had has been fantastic. Brady on the other, no, just kidding. But we, it really helps that when you know you have a question, you can do it, or you get into those phases in the program, and I'll warn people right now, it goes up and down, up and down. And the day before yesterday, I weighed 208.3. Yesterday, I weighed 209. Well, this morning I weighed 207.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes like that, so don't get distracted, or it'll hit a point and you're going to level off for several days. Well, there's ways of combating that too. And just bring your counselor on board, and they will help you walk through this and the best way of doing it. And if you say, well, can I do this? Well, that's not something we recommend, but it's not going to hurt you that much, or that sort of thing.
Right. And it's nice too having the scale and the app, because we could pull your numbers, and as long as the starting point is here and where we're at now is here.
Yeah.
I don't really care how we got there, as long as we're there.
Yeah.
So that's
well,
awesome.
no, and that's true. The scale is a necessity, and measuring the food measuring, weight measuring
Absolutely.
is absolutely necessary.
So how have you navigated snacking at home?
Yeah, so I have this. I get this great big huge bowl, and I do all the chopping up of the food. So I chop up my cucumbers, my peppers, my onions, my tomatoes, and I just put them in there, and I got this big bowl. So if I get hungry, I just grab a smaller bowl, and I get a bowl full of that, and then I add one of the dressings that was recommended to us by Kim is this primal dressing. You can get it at Rollins and that sort of thing, but it fits the program. And I put a little bit on that, and then I'll sit down and I'll eat that. Or if I'm really, really, you're sitting there, you're watching a football game, and you get a case of the Snackies, I go in and get a handful of cherry tomatoes. And that works out well. If you really get hungry, a hard-boiled egg is 2 ounces of protein. So I go in and I keep a bowl of those in the refrigerator. I just grab a hard-boiled egg, and I have that. So it has not been difficult in that.
Right. And we tell people, if you get hungry, talk to your coach.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Some people require more protein than others.
Mm-hmm.
Some people require less. It's all about being human.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going to cheat
with protein.
Cheat with protein. You've heard me say that before.
Yep.
What's your plan to keep this weight off?
One, don't ever forget from whence you came. I think back to that. One of the fun things about this has been being able to get new clothes. I went from a 42-inch waist, and I'm down to a 36, and my wife asked me to buy a pair of 34s the other day because she thinks I'll be able to get into the 34s when I get down to my target weight. I haven't been 34 since, I've been around for a long time. I don't want to say a long time, but when the Lord said, "Let there be light," I was the duty electrician. So anyway, I can't remember the last.
Navy man.
What was my train of thoughts then? Before I was starting to think of
Remember from whence you came.
Oh yeah, and just think of all the clothes and that, and think that if you ever get back into that, I mean, we gave all our outfit. I bet you we've taken 10 33 gallon garbage bags of clothes to Water Springs Thrift Center down there. I mean, these are good clothes. That we bought with the idea that we're going to use them for a long time. Thankfully, we're not. And so now, buying clothes that fit us now, well, I don't want to have to buy clothes to fit me in the future if I put on weight. That's one thing I do. Another thing, when I'm with the family or my wife and I, we like to go camping every other weekend. We have a fifth wheel that we take out camping every other weekend. I want to have the energy to be able to enjoy that with my wife. And I want, we have a quality of life. The number of our days are numbered according to Scripture. And it's not a matter of living out the number of days that are numbered. It's the quality of life that I'm living out that I want to make sure. And so one thing I'm going to keep that in mind. I'm going to remember that where I came from, and I don't want to go back there. And then the other thing is when we go out. One of the things we learned traveling is going to a place, went to this nice restaurant, and I had an 8-ounce steak, but I cut it in half and I took half of it home, and I had that for lunch the next day. Well, if we go out to dinner once we start going, I'm going to start looking at the senior menu a lot more. Senior menu was never enough, and so I would never eat that, but now I'm going to start. Or the other thing we're going to do is if we go out to a restaurant and they have a dish that we really like and we know it's going to be too much, when they bring the food at the same time, we're going to have them bring to-go box. We're going to cut the meal in half and take the rest of it home to enjoy the same meal again tomorrow or the next day. So these are things that we have planned out. And I encourage that if you do it. It's been fun doing it with my wife. She is very supportive, a wonderful, wonderful woman. And we can sit down and we can plan how we're going to maintain. We both don't ever want to get back up there. And again, what they say when you've been married, or my wife and I have been married for almost 30 years now. One of the complaints as a pastor, I'm also a retired pastor, is that, we quit talking. Well, when you're planning and when you're doing things like this, you're talking, you're communicating, you're growing closer. So that's a benefit, that's a side benefit I just thought of. But we're going to plan out, and so we're not going to stop living a good life. We're not going to stop having our glass of wine with dinner. We're not going to stop. We're just going to stop eating huge.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a great plan. I do want to point out, people, that's one of the main concerns people have. What about when this is done? Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I'm most proud of with this particular program is the amount of stuff you have to buy from me to maintain when you're done is absolutely zero.
Good.
Like you can
I'd rather have you go broke than me.
Thanks, man. You can do absolutely everything you said without buying anything prepackaged and I think that really sets us apart from other programs that are out there. It's like, we don't have bars, we don't have shakes, we don't have...
No, you don't have any of that.
You now know how to shop from the grocery store and buy what you need to sustain yourself and to have maximum energy.
And I help in the plan. Read the ingredients on everything you buy. Get in the habit. That's one thing I've gotten in the habit doing during this, is there are certain things you just don't want. And I was, through this process, whenever we go to Costco or Sam's or the grocery store, I am amazed, absolutely amazed at what they sell when you read the ingredients.
It should be illegal.
That basically, really, all this pre-cooked, deep-fried, pastry-laden food, that's supposed to be, what's yours?
It's not mine.
Oh. It's supposed to be good for you, or not good for you. It's supposed to be good. Well, yeah, it might be good tasting, but it ain't good for you. And that's one thing we've done as far as the future plan. We're not going to have any chips, dip, or snacky type things in the house. We'll have popcorn that we can pop. I believe that was the manna of the Old Testament, because it disappears when it gets wet. But anyway, I'm still trying to convince some of my pastor friends that that's true.
It's not sweet though.
Yeah, but that depends upon your taste. Corn has a lot of sugar in it.
Yeah, true.
So anyway, that's cool. It's all part of it.
Yeah. About those prepackaged foods, about the only thing they're good for is selling drugs. Literally, that's what keeps people on
like
pharmaceuticals.
High blood pressure.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Your last question, I'm going to change. Because it's a yes or no question, and I think after people, if they listen to you for more than 30 seconds, they already know the answer to this question.
Okay.
The question as it's written is, would you recommend this program to family and friends?
Yeah, truly.
And I don't think it's just a yes, it's an absolutely.
Yeah, it is.
So here's how I'm going to change it. What would you say to your family or friends that were considering working with us?
You know, that's good. One of the things that stop people from dieting, on trying to lose weight on their own, is they don't see any end to it. I would say one thing on this program, you can see an end. When we started this program on the 4th of September, I saw an end to it. Now, granted, and I'll be honest here, it's stretched out a little longer than I wanted. I wanted to be at my target weight before Christmas. That ain't gonna happen. You see an end date. You see, okay, I'm gonna be there for this long. It's gonna help me get to this point. When before we moved down here 4 years ago, I would go to the local Y there in Linden, Washington, and I would do an hour on the treadmill, and I would do an hour in the weight room. And I lost weight. But the minute I came down here and with the kerfuffle of moving, I lost sight of that habit. Plus, the accessibility to those wasn't as close. Well, one, you see the end point. So if you know you have to lose weight, it's not a laborious, not fun method of trying to get healthy. This way, I start in September. I know where I'm going. I'm already pretty much there. You figure 58 pounds in 3 months? You know, that's almost 20 pounds a month. That is a little under a pound a day. You can see the progress, and it keeps you going one more day a lot easier. And that's what I'd say. You can. It's short-lived. It's fun. Does it look like I've suffered? That's what I would say.
Awesome. Perfect.
Plus, if you drop my name here, they'll smile at you even better.
Mike, this has been awesome. We've gone on we're pushing 35 minutes now, so
Really?
I really, really appreciate this, and I know that there's some people that are going to see this, that it's the tipping point for them, and they're going to appreciate it too. So thank you.
Like I say, and I tell people this as a pastor. The only way you can change the past is change today, so in the future when you look back, it's been changed.
That's awesome.